Here we are in a beautiful place in the southwest of Mexico by the Pacific Ocean. We've come to see a 4-star hotel, built as 19 tree houses right on the beach. If we've brought you to this idyllic spot, it's not just to make you jealous. We want to show you how a regenerative tourism business set up 15 years ago has helped regenerate their whole region. Before we get into the story, let's take a look at the project's stakeholders. First, there are the founders, David, a marketing director from the west coast of the US, and his wife at the time, Sandra. To set up his resort, David needed investment. Initially, he borrowed from friends and family, which enabled him to build the first tree houses. Then he raised impact investment from specialized funds for a total of $2.5 million. Now the Earth. We're in the state of Guerrero on the coast. It's fertile land, but degraded by 80 years of coconut palm monoculture. It's also home to lagoons, forests, mangroves, turtles, and pelicans. The customers are mainly rich American tourists who can afford the all-inclusive offers at between $300 and $600 a night. Some come for yoga retreats, others are inspired by the promise of a more eco-friendly holiday. In contrast, they could have chosen an all-inclusive holiday in one of the multiple resorts further down the coast, which would have been much cheaper, but that would be supporting a form of tourism that has devastating effects on the soil, biodiversity, and the economy of the local regions. Finally, there are the local communities. David's project is in Juluchuca, where the economy is mostly fishing and agriculture, rather than tourism. Today, David has brought together his team and the 2 members of Regenesis, who helped him design this project 15 years ago. On the left is Tim Murphy, and on the right, Bill Reed, who was involved right from the start.
The first thing I'm going to talk about is, one of the stories I tell is when I first talked to Bill, my ex-wife had talked to him and was like all excited about doing this thing called regeneration. And I, heard about it, I was like, this is bullshit, absolute bullshit. Anytime you build, you destroy.
Together, they decided to build a resort that wouldn't destroy anything. And the starting point was quite different from the usual business plan with its quantitative objectives for numbers of rooms and customers. They took the time to get to know the place.
This is the other way around. This was, we are going to do studies of the geology, the archaeology, the anthropology, the soils, the flora, the fauna, the water, the people, the history, spoken word history, how the whole place works as a whole and how it integrates into the community.
That was the first thing that we needed to do, is to understand this place as an organism. And that includes the people. Every aspect of life in a place makes a place who it is. Not what it is, but who it is.
The question is no longer just, how do I set up my business, but how can my business serve the vocation of this place?
We had a topographic map done of the site, and it showed that it actually was terraced and that there was something here that was not only utilitarian agricultural, but something that was largely ceremonial as well, that had the typical orientation to the sky.
This approach revealed the presence of an Aztec site on the top of the hill, as well as risks of earthquakes, avalanches, and erosion along the beach.
In that process of laying down the geology map and the archaeology and all those maps, you get a multi-layered map, which then says, here's what this place needs. Here's what's ideal for this place.
Initially, David had imagined his resort on the top of the hill, like the Aztecs. But through the process, his plans changed radically. To honor this place, Playa Viva would be built near the sea, and the resort designed to help the dunes resist erosion.
We realized that we could build tree houses with the palm trees to begin to allow the root systems of these palms to hold the barrier dune together. And that was the beginning of continual process of not just compromising, but how do we harmonize with life?
This is the original jet, as we call it. This is our real first tree house where it's built up in the trees. We did a bunch of tests early on what are the best ways to connect to the trees. And you can see this is simple. You know, these are just bolts going through it that don't impact the trees in a negative way. These 4 trees will become the basis for an entire treehouse.
15 years later, the resort has evolved in keeping with the initial design principles. The magic of this design is that the more the resort develops, the more the roots of the palm trees grow and protect against soil erosion.
So with each construction we do, we learn and improve. And that's part of the regenerative development process is you don't just boom, do it all at once.
And that's not all. David has also designed energy systems that make the most of the site.
We are 100% off-grid solar. So we're not engaged in the kind of dirty energy that's being made in conjunction between CFE and Pemex. The only time that we do use any carbon is we do have a backup generator that if there's cloudy days or whatever, we're not making enough energy, it kicks on.
And these common sense choices start to have an effect on the holidaymakers.
Well, you know, one thing I want to point out is the hot water. For example, you know, we're not using carbon to heat the hot water. These are fairly common and available technologies. All of our hot water is heated by the sun. So, you know, take as long a hot water shower as you want, right? You're not expending any carbon on it. The negative side is, you know, when it rains here, you may not get a hot shower.
Hot water only when the sun shines, no air conditioning, no fridges in the rooms. It's a far cry from a regular 4-star hotel. But for Jan, this experience is far more luxurious.
The rooms are incredible here. They're beautifully designed, and we look at every little detail here as magical, right down to every little pebble, you know, that's been placed. So there's no need for AC the way things are designed. The air flows through everything correctly because it's been well thought out.
The place and the architecture are beautiful, but David wants to make sure his customers experience a deeper transformation.
The experience that they gave all my friends last week changed their lives personally. They went home, they wrote me letters, they said, blindly some of them came here just because I thought it was a wonderful place to be, and they had an experience that will help them in the future, that gave them thoughts about where are my goals next, what's my purpose, and they were transformed by having their week here.
What could be better to accompany deep transformation than amazing local food? David has invested in a farm to create a farm-to-table offering for his customers.
You may not think that farm is a good investment, but as a hotelier, people come and stay at Playa Viva and they go, wow, this is amazing. And then they go out to the farm and they come back and they go, oh my God, I didn't realize what you were doing fully until I went out on the farm. But again, that's part of how we create a guest engagement that increases repeat business, increases loyalty and connection to place. And it goes beyond the farm.
The farm made David realize that his project could also respond to another challenge in this place, water scarcity. He asked Amanda, a permaculture specialist, to create the conditions for water to come back.
We were only 35 meters above the ocean, but this completely encircles that space. Because this is our highest spot, then an impermeable surface was put on top of it. And so any water that hits here goes flying down this hillside. When I got here, there were crevasses in this direction that took all the organic material and all the water with it, which is why the lagoon back at the farm was kind of filling up with sediment, you could call it. When we put in this swale, we planted this line of trees right here behind Arno. It's 2 or 3 species, because the water that we capture here, gravity is gonna send it to the lagoon. We want it to move slowly. We want to capture it in this tree and then use it again or harvest it from the organic material that the tree's providing us. And we're planting and harvesting water through some of this work.
5 years later, and the water is back. The soils have been improved. The farm provides a third of the resort's food and has also contributed to the wealth of the wider region.
And we look at the farm as a whole systems thinking. From a permaculture perspective, you would think the social, the economic, and the ecological facets of the program need to be kind of raised and developed together. The role of the farm now, not only for Playa Viva, but for the state of Guerrero, is really an agro-tourism site. We receive between 100 and 200 local students from the community who use the space as an education center. We use the space as a training center for international students.
And the regenerative dynamic has spread. In the neighbouring villages, 6 women have created a cooperative that sells herbs and flowers.
Todo lo que ven aquí viene del huerto y todo es procesado por manos de mujeres y básicamente todos los ingredientes que ven aquí los utilizamos para nuestros tés medicinales que empezamos a producir hace un año aproximadamente. Pues para mí la idea sería como incluir a muchísimas más mujeres, pero también como ya teniendo centro, que fuera un centro de agregación. Entonces entender que las mujeres en sus casas pudieran tener sus propios proyectos y que ya no fuera tanto como todas de nosotras ir a Playa Viva y trabajar en el huerto de Playa Viva, sino más bien trabajar en nuestros propios huertos en la comunidad, y no solo en Juluchuca, sino en toda la cuenca. Para mí ese sería como el futuro de...
David realised that his sphere of influence extended beyond the site of the resort and over the hill to encompass the whole watershed. So he co-founded Regenerative, a bioregional network that brings together local players to work on 5 themes: permaculture, water quality, reforestation, marine life, and education. A team of local volunteers like Diego have saved more than 500,000 baby turtles since 2010.
Porque los animalitos pues, que no se defienden. Llegan los animales, cangrejos, mapaches, tejones, todos ahí los chochitos y se las comen. Y así nosotros esperamos que salgan las tortugas, las llevamos adentro del mar y para que se vayan para adentro ya, para que se liberen más.
People staying at Playa Viva can visit the turtle sanctuary and take part in their work.
You know, the turtle sanctuary here and the release of baby turtles. For people that come and release baby turtles, it's a transformational experience. It's a, wow, this changed my life. For them to see, that is the turtle sanctuary person, seeing the reaction of somebody seeing this for the first time, they realize how special their place is just from that reaction. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's one that I've just discovered. So you talk about my transformation, it comes, you know, from little discoveries like that.
Regenerative also supports young people to develop new capabilities so that they can become active citizens and help regenerate their region.
Entonces, junto con las maestras decidimos que es mucho mejor empezar a desarrollar un programa regenerativo, pero enfocado en habilidades que a ellos les falta como fortalecer. Matemáticas, comprensión de lectura, pero metimos 2 materias muy importantes que son habilidades socioemocionales y también educación ambiental. Entonces se hace una mezcla, estamos apoyándonos del programa sintético de la SEP, que es la institución oficial del gobierno, y a partir de eso, en las mañanas yo voy a las escuelas, les enseño un poco de estas habilidades, se los enseño a través del juego, se los enseño a través de la participación, empezar como a involucrarlos en gobernanza.
Playa Viva customers are invited to invest in an education initiative called Adopt a Student.
Entonces es un programa donde los huéspedes de Playa Viva hacen un donativo para que los estudiantes tengan un apoyo escolar durante un año. Entonces se les apoya con uniformes, almuerzo, inscripciones y también con gasolina para los que bajan de la montaña. Es como un programa de becas que sí ha facilitado que las familias tengan una visión mucho más relajada del futuro, donde sus hijos tengan todavía la intención de seguir estudiando, de seguir creciendo, y pues la verdad sí es un reto constantemente porque...
By thinking about the ecosystem as a whole, David enables his customers to change their role. From simple consumers, they can become co-investors in Regenerative.
Estamos creando vehículos para replicar lo que se está haciendo aquí. Para los inversionistas creo que es muy importante, porque inversionistas no invierten una vez, reciben un retorno, quieren reinvertir. Quieren saber que su inversión está teniendo un impacto local positivo, generando un retorno económico, pero también creando oportunidades nuevas en otros lugares. Y eso es exactamente lo que está pasando aquí.
Today, Resimar is an inspiration for other bioregions in Mexico, and the Playa Viva customers can't get enough of this approach.
Playa Viva attracts travelers who want an experience that is reciprocal of place. They may not be able to define it that way, but when they come here and they have that, and how are they going to have that? I mean, our goal is here is different than most all-inclusive resorts. We don't want people to stay here. We want people to interact with that wider area, to get out on the farm, to get out into the community, to get up into the watershed, to get out into the ocean. And the deeper they go, the more connected they are to place. And again, that drives them to want to come back.
The aspirations of his customers have helped David think bigger, beyond the Playa Viva project.
You know, as a business person, you're like, boom, business idea, opportunity, people want more of this, and they can't just come to Playa Viva all the time, and that's where regenerative travel came from. We bring travelers in here. We need to bring travel designers and travel agents into here and create a bigger ecosystem. So, you know, it grows beyond you, and learning to let that go and what it can do to, because, you know, now regenerative travel becomes an engine for Playa Viva, but for all the travelers that are now seeking that, and becomes a transformational agent in the marketplace.
By starting with the vocation of the place, David revealed his customers' deeper aspirations. He's contributed to a holistic ecological and social regeneration of the watershed, whose effects now ripple out.
We cannot save the world. The world is too big, it's too abstract, there's no CEO in charge. What we can do is save our places. Now, what's a place? The place is here.
So what might be your place? Do you know it intimately, from the geology up? How big is here? And have you explored your customers' deeper aspirations?